welcome to On the Air presented by Airwave. I'm your host, Sydney Smith, and I'm here with Jonathan Cayco, who is a top-ranked powerlifter and represents Team USA. He has a ton of accolades under his belt within the 10 years of his powerlifting career, and Airwave is one of his favorite tools that he uses. Well, thanks for jumping on here with me today. I'm excited to hear more about your journey, some of your Airwave experience, really just kind of all of it in general. So thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule, especially with all your training and everything.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate being here. And it's a really big honor. So thank you.
Yeah. So what do you have coming up on the horizon?
Actually, right now I've been doing a lot of rehab work. I've been very what's the word I'm looking for? I've been in kind of like a rebuild phase, right?
Okay.
I've been because I've been so active for the past 4 years, back to back, competing. So the next thing coming up hopefully is either January, or if not January, it should be February of next year. So early next year.
So you're taking
which really isn't that far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit more chill right now.
Yeah, no. So the past 5 months of training has just been all kind of corrective work and just kind of resolving older and newer injuries that I've had in the last few years.
Yeah.
Which has been a huge success so far, actually, and it's something I've been planning to do. Something I've had on my mind to do for the past so many years. I just was fortunate enough to have won most of my competitions while I was pretty banged up and beat up, right?
That's super cool. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And so I had the opportunity present itself to me early this year, and I took it. I didn't lift heavy. I haven't lifted heavy. Or rather, I didn't lift heavy for the first few months after my most recent competition,
Okay.
which is the longest I had gone without lifting heavy in probably over 10 years. So.
Oh, wow. I was about to ask,
Yeah.
What is it? How does this compare to your normal type of training? Obviously, there's different times whenever you ramp up your training with the competitions coming up, but overall, you're not really taking big deloads, at least, correct?
Yeah. Nothing like this. Yeah, nothing like this. Like the most I would do in the past is I'll take a week off, and I'll kind of get right back into it. Even if it was slower, we would kind of get right back into it. So.
Yeah. And you said you have been in the sport for 10 years now?
I've been competing for about close to 10 years now.
Okay.
Overall, I've been lifting about 20 years overall now.
So before going full force into powerlifting, what did you do before?
I was actually doing esports before powerlifting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah. So I was really into gaming. I still kind of am. I don't take it as seriously as I did then.
That's very different than now.
Yeah. It was a complete 180.
Yeah.
And just you would sit at your computer all day and play, versus now I'm at the gym all day.
That's a crazy transition.
Yeah. So that was an interesting one. I mean, even before esports, I was in the gym, but when I was doing full-time gaming stuff, I was quite unhealthy. I sat at my computer for a few years straight, almost.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you're coming from esports, which is not even slightly relevant to powerlifting.
Yeah.
How did you go from that to powerlifting? Because that is not common at all.
So yeah, we could go back a little bit on that. So, I had my hand in esports in its early days. At that point, it was about 10 years ago. On that timeline. For me, I was getting burned out of playing games all day. I didn't like it. I just didn't like how I felt. I felt unhealthy, and I was unhealthy.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna step away, or at least I'm gonna step away there, and I'm going to I'm gonna go back into the gym. I was just like, oh, let me start getting healthy again. And at the time, powerlifting was just getting popular. Raw powerlifting was getting popular. So what I mean about raw powerlifting, that's what's popular nowadays. It's just sleeves, knee sleeves and a belt. Because prior to that, there was equipped powerlifting that was kind of a popular thing. That's where they wear like the knee wraps, or they wear like supportive suits and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got back into it, raw powerlifting was getting popular, and I was like, oh, what's all this about? Coming back into lifting, that was at a time when bodybuilding was like the main thing, right? You when you go to the gym, 90% of the time, the serious guys were bodybuilders, right? As compared to nowadays, it's almost like a 50-50 split, or if even the majority of people who are at gyms now, when you go in, they're powerlifting. They're doing squat, bench, or deadlift. Because back then it was weird to like see someone, like if someone was doing a deadlift, it was like, oh
Yeah.
wow,
What are you doing?
like you're a power, yeah,
Yeah.
it was just yeah. But now it's just like everyone does it. But yeah, so that. I wanted to get healthy again. Powerlifting was getting popular at the time, so I kind of just dove into it. I was like, okay, this is new. I'm used to like doing a lot of reps, a lot of controlled contraction type stuff for bodybuilding, and now this was like a 180 from that. It was like, see how heavy you can lift. I was like, okay, that's cool. So I just started it, and I found myself enjoying it. And it kind of just snowballed into where I am today.
Was there someone that introduced you to it, or maybe you have a friend that was already in the gym? And especially starting out, no matter what you're doing, it takes someone to help. Usually, it takes someone to help guide you with what you're doing. So, was there someone like that influencing you?
Here and there, most definitely. I had a few friends. They were like childhood friends, and I just happened to run into them again. They're like, yeah, we're doing powerlifting stuff, and I was like, oh wow, and it was interesting because they like when I knew them, they didn't lift or anything. Um, but I actually I would say the majority of it, I was just doing homework online. I was just watching YouTube videos. Like that was like OG YouTube back in the day. Um, and for powerlifting, it was like there was just like three powerlifters really you followed, as compared to so many
Yeah,
right nowadays in the space. Um, you follow guys like obviously like there's guys like Ed Cohen, Dan Green, he's a legend. Brandon Lilly. It was very still like the legends who came out were just like the West Side guys. Guys who came out of that from Animal and stuff like Andrei Malinichev and them and those are the guys we followed back in the day, and I would just like religiously watch their videos and their tips on how to squat 10 pounds more, stuff like
yeah.
that, right? And so I was just a student. I've always been just a student of the game, and I just enjoy it.
That's crazy impressive to be able to learn from YouTube and doing all your research, especially with something as physical as powerlifting. Just the different form, the different really knowledge that you have to have about lifting and everything. So that's really impressive to be able to do, especially being one of the top guys in the sport, to be able to learn from YouTube and just watching videos, especially powerlifting being such a physical thing. So just very impressive on your end to be able to do what you're doing from uh, really not even having someone physically showing you and being there to help.
Oh yeah, I mean for the first few years, it was just all YouTube, and there wasn't, especially back then, there wasn't really a lot of resources for like programming or coaching as compared to nowadays. I didn't pick up a coach until I was about 5 or 6 years into it. So around something like that. And um, so and that definitely helped. But still, there was still a
Yeah.
good period where there wasn't any real guidance because it's just it wasn't as it wasn't as there wasn't as much of a plethora, right, as coaches and resources as there is today.
Yeah. So initially, you were representing the U.S. Virgin Islands. Then in 2022, you switched to representing the United States. Why and how did that come about?
Okay, so there's a interesting story about how that went about. So to so let me go back 1 year.
Okay.
So 2020, I was supposed to go to Worlds, but that was obviously canceled because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
2021, I get my spot back to go to Worlds. And so the way powerlifting works, there are federations, right? There's many federations, especially that go across. Like a good example to think about is like USA weightlifting, right? USAW, right? That's the federation of the weightlifting, of Olympic weightlifting, right? That goes for the Olympics. And in powerlifting, we at the time we had the USAPL, USA Powerlifting. So when it comes to competing internationally and representing your country, usually you lift under a specific federation that ultimately branches off to the international. Uh, you know, usually there's only like one federation that kind of that branches off to the two when you want to step onto the international stage. So what happened with the Virgin Islands thing was USA Powerlifting at the time. They ended up splitting from that branch, like I mentioned. So there was no longer a route to lifting internationally because of there was just like political, like behind the scene, like political stuff that happened uh with the IPF, the International Powerlifting Federation. So basically, they're without getting too much into it, the IPF and the WADA work together. The WADA is the World Anti-Doping Agency, and they just at the time there was just a lot of I don't know how would I say it. Things weren't the federations weren't agreeing.
Yeah.
Basically, they were butting heads about stuff. Yeah, so which ultimately was bad for the lifters, right?
Hmm.
So they ended up splitting. So I had a route back to Worlds, which was in Sweden that year, but there was no, but the route, but the road was gone, right, with the split. So the U.S. Virgin Islands, essentially, they're one of the representative countries, and because they're a sovereign state, I didn't need my U.S. citizenship still works for them, right? So it was almost like a little loophole, right? So the U.S. Virgin Islands took all the lifters in, and we were able to represent for them um, at that 2021 Worlds in Sweden. So that's how that went about.
So it wasn't exactly
So
an
it was
intentional
just
switch.
it was no. It was more like a hey, like we'll take you in. That was like that situation sucks. It sucks for the lifters. But we'll take you in, and you guys can lift for us. And I'm forever grateful to Kimberly Walford. She's the head of the U.S. Virgin Islands. She's one of the greatest of all time. She's one of the best lifters ever, and she's very sweet. She's a good person, and she took us in when we needed her. And that's forever grateful. I'm forever grateful for that. So.
I love that. How has that transition and change been,
Yeah.
especially since that wasn't something that was really on your radar?
So at the time, it was very difficult. Going from 20. So again, like timeline wise, I had won my nationals in 2019, which ultimately led to 2022 Worlds, right? So to get on the Worlds team, you have to win your nationals. Um, and having we lost that Worlds in 2020. I had to requalify and do a lot in 21 to get there, and by the I won nationals again. Which is no easy accomplishment for really any sport, right?
100%.
Um, and to have it taken away a second time for there was about I would say there was about a 2 week or so period where it was gone, the road was gone, like I mentioned, and we just were like, okay, like I can't do anything about it. There was
Yeah.
no uh yeah, so there was that, especially where I was just like, you kind of start accepting it. That might be two worlds you kind of missed out on, right? And that, yeah, but so with the Virgin Islands thing happening, that was really a big deal, and a, a big curveball almost, for all of us who got to compete with them. But we all took it. We all took, we took the hand to save us. in a sense, right? And we made our best of it, and everyone who represented with, including myself, with the Virgin Islands, they're all very good to us, and they've always been good to us. Sometimes I have the opportunity to chat with them when I see them at the international events that I go to. And that's something we'll always have.
Yeah, I can imagine that being very difficult and crushing in the moment, especially after working so hard. But that may have lit a bit of a fire in you to work harder and help accomplish more. Even what you have recently, you've really built up a lot of accolades across your career, but even more recently. So that may have turned into a good thing, even if it seemed pretty negative in the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, you just have to make the best of what you have. Right? All we have is the present. Um, what's yesterday's done and tomorrow hasn't happened. So the present's now, and that's it. And that's honestly, yeah, it's true. I would say, uh, handling, especially that. I had a lot of other things going on, obviously, as we all do, um, alongside our professional careers outside of it, that affect us and that challenge us. There's always adversity we have between, friends, family, whatever.
Yeah.
And I believe we definitely grew as people. I can speak for myself. I will speak. I can only speak for myself, but I believe I grew as a person. And it really helped me find perspective and and find the good. Try and seek the good in people, and among while it's easy to like curse at the stars, right?
Yeah.
And just like, oh, they're these but I think I've grown as a person, and I think it ultimately will always make me a better lifter. I think it's always important to be a good person first, which ultimately will make a better lifter,
Yeah.
a better athlete.
I would 100% agree too. And with your perspective on things, I think no matter your situation, like you can have a great situation, but it's really your perspective is what's really going to make it. And as far as your character goes, like what you were saying, I think that was a great point that you made. Your character is what lasts. Like you have this platform. So having great character, I think, is a lot more long lasting. And that's what matters more than what you accomplish exactly. But I think working on both those things
Right.
is very important. And you have a lot of accolades, a lot of accomplishments under your belt. Can you share some or a memorable competition moment or personal achievement that stands out in your career so far?
I don't get to sit down and rather I don't sit down and think about it too much because I'm always kind of like here now, just planning for tomorrow, right? um, but when I do sit back and think about it, I think some of the most profound moments for myself was definitely my first nationals championship win in 2019 and my first world championship win in 2021. I would say impactfulness, it was probably the 2021 Worlds, just through all the turmoil that me and my my loved ones went through around me from 2019 to 21 to get there, right? Um, so winning Worlds in 2021 in Sweden was quite a big deal for me. Um, I had actually stacked up the most injuries I've ever had in 2021, and because I competed so many times that year, I did three big hard competitions in about 6 months, 6 or 7 months,
Wow.
uh, and so that's pretty much back to back to back.
Yeah.
I had a so I accumulated a fair amount of injuries in that time. Um, so yeah, I would say 21 Worlds was my most uh, profound moment for myself so far. Uh, winning world, uh, winning Worlds again in 2023 last year was quite a big deal for me. as well to kind of get it back and and put that stamp there. And yeah, those are probably my biggest moments for me.
Especially with all of the uncertainty coming off of COVID in 2020. No one really knew what was going to be happening next too, so you don't really know what's happening with your career, and especially competing internationally again. I bet that was a relief to see all of your hard work paying off and just kind of reigniting the joy of like competing again and knowing that it wasn't going to end there after COVID.
Right. Because uh, there's always going to be question marks, right? Like you never know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just fortunate enough to get it done. Um, and it's something I never take for granted.
Yeah. So as you continue to make your mark in the world of powerlifting, what are your long-term goals and aspirations in the sport?
Um, so for my long-term goals in powerlifting, I think I've done pretty much I mean, I've been on every major platform, every major competition that powerlifting has to offer now. And that I'm very grateful for that. My long-term goal now, and my absolute top end goal is to just put out a total, just put out just a big total for my weight class. Really, just to lift as heavy as I can now, and just put it
Yeah.
out there because I've been riddled with so many injuries, and you know, for example, all my lifts gradually went down from 2021 just from being injured. Even if something didn't hurt, there's still like
The
that
wear
old
and tear on
injury.
your body.
Exactly, right? There's
Yeah,
just wear and
yeah.
tear, and I never really had a time to like catch my breath and get my body back running without creaks, and um, because even after 2021, after like I mentioned, like I won in the worlds in 21, I wanted to take a small break because I was so injured even at that time, 21, right? But there were like some, I don't want to say obligations, but there were some competitions. There was Sheffield, for example, that was happening in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you're super familiar with it. Um,
I'm not.
so Sheffield is generally nowadays. So Sheffield's a newer competition that SBD puts on.
Okay.
Um, so when it comes to like levels, it goes so there's national, worlds, and now Sheffield. So Sheffield's now like a step above worlds,
Yeah.
and Sheffield is for the most part all the world champions of each weight class go against each other, and it's scored, and whoever can total the highest over their respective weight class wins that meet, right? So like if a 66 guy, if a 66 male weight class, right? He, let's say his world record totals like here, and he totals like up here above it at that meet, and no one can like percentage wise, no one can do more than their totals, right? Over over their weight classes. Then that guy would win the meet. I don't know if that's a great explanation,
No, that was
but
good. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's how Sheffield works. So the first Sheffield was actually supposed to happen in 2020, but that was canceled, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Sheffield finally debuted uh, in 2023, and I was very fortunate to be a part of the first Sheffield. Uh,
That's so cool.
yeah, I podiumed at that one as well. I took the at that meet in 2023. I broke the bench press record and the total record for my weight class
That's
in
so cool.
2023.
Congrats.
Thank you. And yeah, it was fun, and about 11 weeks after that, we had Worlds in 2023 in Malta. So that's a little island south of Italy. Um,
You're getting to
and I
travel
was
all these cool places
oh
too.
yeah, that's one of the biggest things, just traveling to all these cool places.
And while
It's such a
competing, it's like a win-win.
yeah, it's such a privilege, and I'm learning to extend my travel a little better.
Mhm.
Because before, I would be there 10 days, 8 to 9 of those days would be me cutting weight and just like being ready to compete, and we'd have like a day to ourselves after. But
Now you're
excuse me,
staying
I'm
there and exploring a little bit?
a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
So again, I was fortunate enough to be a part of this year's Sheffield as well in 2024, where I also podiumed again. Um, um, and we stayed an extra like 2 weeks. We stayed because Sheffield's in the UK. That's where the meet is.
Uh-huh.
Sheffield. It's like a little industrial city, like 2 hours from London.
Okay.
And I was able to stay like an extra 2 weeks after we went to Paris and we went to London. So we
That's
made a
so
little
fun.
vacation out of it. Yeah. So I went with my family. And it was great. That was my first time. That was for me. That was my dad's first time in Europe, right?
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was fun to like watch him just kind of go
So
around.
cool.
Yeah, So I was trying to like I was trying to encourage him to like, oh yeah, go like let's go do something.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah,
Well,
it's been really good.
I look forward to seeing if you can even set more world records. I know you have several under your belt, different records at competitions in the upcoming future, and really all over the place since you're competing all over the world, which is so cool. So I'll be on the lookout for that for what else you can accomplish, even though you already accomplished so much.
Yeah, I definitely and I definitely can. That's the thing. I'm extremely confident that I can. Like I mentioned, I've been taking this time to kind of rebuild.
Yeah.
Actually, in the past 3 months, I actually lost 10. I've lost about 10 pounds.
Okay.
Just to kind of like recomp. This is the lightest I've been in like 8 years. You
Wow.
know,
A good little
So
reset.
no, yeah,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
Um, and I definitely feel it. Just recently, it was my first time walking without pain. Uh, and
That's always a great start.
yeah, probably like 7 months. Um,
Okay.
you know, That's great. Yeah, I remember I was on the treadmill, and I took a step, and there was no pain, and I was just like, whoa, like whoa,
Yeah.
like it's working. These are and so I'm very optimistic, and I'm very excited to continue training and to just be in a position to push further.
Yeah. On your
Instead
way
of
to
just
peak performance, you know?
exactly, instead
Yeah.
of kind of just like
Making it.
um yeah, instead of just kind of standing still and just making sure I don't get hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, very cool. So I want to talk a little bit about Airwave. You are one of our Airwave athletes, and a mouthpiece in particular for powerlifting and strength sports is more normalized and really important with the benefits that you can get from it, especially with Airwave. So can you tell me a little bit about how you were introduced to Airwave in general?
So I actually like learned about Airwave a while back. I was really interested in them because I had been using mouthpieces for a while now. I've jumped between like it was interesting. I was looking. I found some of my old mouthpieces actually. I've jumped between like 5 different mouthpieces, just like you just like it almost as like a general sports one for like football,
Yeah.
um, to any other mouthpieces that are available. And um, I first used the Airwave, I think around the middle of last year, and it was just like I just was instantly like, oh, this is like this thing's like nice. Like someone actually made a mouthpiece that's like with lifting in mind,
Yeah.
like lifting stuff in mind, right? Because it's not like bulky. I think that was the biggest thing for me. It's not bulky. It's comfortable. Um, you can still bite down. Like I know people. I've never personally done it. I know people who bite hard enough to bite through their mouthpieces.
Mhm.
I've seen it happen, and I'm just like, I don't know how they. I don't know. Like, I don't know
That's
how
not
that
you.
happens. But yeah, so like, I feel like I crunch down on that thing pretty good when I'm lifting heavy. But I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't done
Um,
that yet either, so I don't really know how
yeah,
those people do it.
yeah. So I'm just like, I don't know, but
So with all those
but
other
yeah, that
mouthpieces that you've tried, and obviously just having a lot of experience with mouthpieces in general in the sport, How would you say Airwave compares to all of those other mouthpieces?
The biggest thing is that it's very low key. Like I forget I forget it's in sometimes. And I think, yeah, I mean, it sets the jaw in a good position. I think a lot of people forget that their tongue is important when it comes to lifting stuff. Um, next time you lift, try and like move your tongue around. It's gonna be weird, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, the way the Airwave is like built, it kind of just like encourages good habits. I think that's the best way to put it. The way it's designed, the way it's shaped, is that it just encourages a good position and good habits within your jaw.
Yeah.
Because I've had that problem. For example, when I was doing a lot of corrective stuff, even recently, getting through my the injuries and the and whatnot. When I would squat down, my jaw would laterally move like side to side like this to try and balance myself, and it was so weird, right? So I was just like, and I was just trying just to see.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me put the mouthpiece in, along with my corrector work, obviously, and just to really keep that jaw like steady, keep it tension, and like keep it not moving. Um, and that's where a mouthpiece is really really important, especially in something like squats where it balances everything.
Yeah. It's crazy too how, like, I didn't really realize beforehand how much the placement of the jaw and your tongue really plays a role into the rest of your body mechanics and how it operates, and really just maximizing your velocity output, how much you're able to breathe, like all of those things going together, all coming from your mouth.
Yeah, I mean I would say that's the biggest thing because I'm big on nasal breathing,
Mm-hmm.
which happened to get popular recently, which is cool.
Yeah.
There's more attention on it now. And with the Airwave, like I find myself in training, I'm just like, man, like I want to breathe better. Let me just make sure I'm where I'm at. Like during sets, like I'll set up for like an accessory where
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, oh, sometimes I just forget to put it in. Like if I'm just like kind of moving around,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, oh, I have to stop and put it in because it's just I could tell like
Something is
it just
missing.
doesn't feel right. Yeah, it just doesn't feel right anymore without it.
Yeah.
Um, I like to compare it to like wearing my equipment, wearing knee sleeves, wearing a belt. These are all just like two little tools that can
Mm-hmm.
help you lift more, right? Wrist straps, your favorite pair of socks, right?
I mean,
you know,
like, Airwave for me has
and
become like one of those pieces of equipment. Like, if you're setting up for a lift or something, if you have your lifters, your belt, your sleeves, like whatever it is, like Airwave is one of those
yeah,
things that, like you said, if I don't have it in, then I'm like, something's missing. I gotta go get my Airwave really quick.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And I like it a lot. It works, and I really feel like I honestly just wear it like almost 99% of the time I'm training. Like I only take it out to get a sip of water.
Yeah. So let's take a deadlift, for example. How are you able to tell a difference with the Airwave in versus not?
I think the biggest thing on that is just overall tension, right? I mean, just being able to bite down on something, and not chip your tooth,
Yeah.
right? is
That's always good.
is really beneficial. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
really I've done that's happened to me before. I've actually chipped a front tooth if
Okay.
I'm lifting. Um, but yeah, I think I think it helps a lot just with overall tension and helping you create that tension and that brace that you want when you want to lift maximal loads.
Mm-hmm. And which Airwave do you use?
Currently I'm using the PX2
Okay.
because it fits it's really snug.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a mouthpiece in powerlifting is very important, very normalized at this point. Can you walk me through a little bit of why biting down on a mouthpiece is important for powerlifters?
Is what for powerlifters? You liked a little. I'm sorry.
Why biting down on the mouthpiece is important for powerlifters?
Oh, I mean, I think it's good for anyone who wants to just have complete tension because that's what powerlifting is, right? It's like is being as like solid, rigid, and as tensioned as we can to lift a maximal load, lift the heaviest we can, And I think just something like a mouthpiece, it's it's like a no-brainer, right? Like you bite down, like if when you lift, and I think it's just something that everyone could benefit from if they
Yeah.
if you're trying to
And
lift the heaviest you
so the
can.
last thing I want to touch on is whenever you were first trying it out, it may have been a little bit different since you have had experience with having a mouthpiece in. Did it take you a while to get used to it, or was it a pretty seamless setup trying it out? What did that look like?
When I first tried it, it was a pretty seamless. Like I put it on, I wore it, and I was just like, "Boy, this is good. This fits comfortable. It's not in the way." Like with some other mouthpieces, like when they're like I mentioned, like they're bulkier. Like if I'm setting up on bench, I just feel and they're just like something like something
Yeah.
in my mouth. It's just weird, you know. Like, but with the Airwave, it just it
And
just
it not being
feels
bulky as
right. I
well.
don't know how to explain it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And definitely the breathe. I feel like it does help with the breathing, which is extremely important. You know, uh,
Yeah.
breathing is important generally, obviously, but being able to breathe, being able to intake air properly is really
Yeah.
important to lifting heavy. Try and lift and you know like uh try to like compare it to like if you limited your air when you're lifting versus
Mm-hmm.
when you have when you can freely breathe. Obviously it's gonna the one where you're freely breathing is going
Yeah.
to
Well, cool.
prosper
Thank
versus
you
the other
for
one.
sharing some of your Airwave story, and I really enjoyed listening to more about just your long powerlifting journey in general, and just really what's to come in the future and your different goals. So, thank you for sharing everything and taking the time out of your day to talk with me. Well, that's all for today's episode of On the Air. Thank you all for listening, and thank you, John, for joining me. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to purchase your own Airwave mouthpiece if you want to break your best and unlock your full athletic potential. If you've made it this far, be sure to use code OTA15 for 15% off your next purchase. Drop any questions that you have about Airwave in the comments below, and see you next time.